Duhan Park wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked on the life support systems of Outpost Station Epsilon 7. The station's metal walls kept most of the cold space out, but the maintenance shaft was hot from all the running equipment. His tools clicked against the metal panels as he checked each system carefully. "Duhan, are you still working in there?" A soft voice called from outside the shaft. The voice belonged to Era, the station's Centaurian scientist. Her slight frame and pale blue skin made her look delicate, but Duhan knew she was tougher than she appeared. "Just finishing up," he called back, tightening the last bolt. The oxygen recyclers needed adjustment again. He pulled himself out of the shaft and saw Era floating nearby. Like all Centaurians, she moved with natural grace in zero gravity. Her large, silver eyes watched him with interest as he closed the maintenance panel. "I brought you something," she said, holding out a container of water. "You humans need to drink often when working hard." Duhan smiled and took the water. "Thanks, Ara. That's thoughtful of you." He had learned that Centaurians didn't need to drink as much as humans, but Era always remembered his needs. As they moved through the station's corridors, Era asked about his work. She was always curious about how humans managed to live in space. Her own people had evolved on a world with much less gravity, making space travel easier for them. "Duhan," she said suddenly, stopping near one of the station's large windows, "what are those white spots on your data pad screen?" He looked down at his personal device and laughed. "Oh, that's my screensaver. It's falling snow, like we get on Earth in winter. Christmas is coming up back home." Era moved closer, her silver eyes wide with wonder. "Snow, the frozen water that falls from your sky." She touched the screen gently. "It's beautiful. We don't have anything like this on Centauri Prime." "You should see real snow," Duhan said. "These are just pictures. Real snow is—" He paused, thinking of the right words. "It's like thousands of tiny stars falling from the sky. Each snowflake is different, and when they cover the ground, everything becomes quiet and peaceful." Captain Ji-Won Lee's voice came over the station speakers, interrupting their conversation. "Engineer Park, please report to Level 3. We need a check on the heating systems." "I'll come with you," Era said quickly. "I want to hear more about snow and this Christmas thing." As they made their way to Level 3, Duhan told her about winter on Earth. He described how the streets of Seoul looked with Christmas lights reflecting off the snow, and how people gathered together to stay warm and celebrate. "Your world sounds dangerous," Era said, "with its high gravity and extreme weather. But it also sounds wonderful." She hesitated, then added, "I wish I could see it." Duhan stopped at the entrance to Level 3. Looking at his friend's curious face, he had an idea. It would be complicated, with all the safety procedures and gravity training Era would need, but seeing her excitement about a simple screensaver of snow made him want to show her the real thing. "Maybe you can," he said. "Christmas is still a few months away. If we start planning now." Era's face lit up, her skin glowing slightly with happiness, a Centaurian trait that still amazed Duhan. He didn't tell her yet about all the challenges they would face. Earth's gravity alone would require special equipment for her to handle, but seeing her joy at just the possibility made him determined to find a way. Above them, the station's systems hummed steadily, keeping them all alive in the vast darkness of space, while below, Earth spun slowly, its white clouds swirling like snow across its blue surface. 3 days after showing Era the snow screensaver, Duhan sat in the station's common room, surrounded by paperwork on his tablet. Taking a Centaurian to Earth wasn't as simple as he'd hoped. Every form he filled out seemed to lead to 3 more. "More papers?" Era asked, floating into the room with a grace that made Duhan a little jealous. Her blue skin glowed softly in the station's artificial light. "Medical forms this time," Duhan said, rubbing his tired eyes. "Sunlight wants to run some tests to make sure you can handle Earth's gravity." Medical Officer Sun Mei Kang had been clear about the risks. "Earth isn't just heavy," she had told them. The air pressure is higher than what Era is used to. We need to be careful. Era settled into a seat next to Duhan, using the safety straps to stay in place. I've been studying Earth's weather reports, she said, pulling out her own tablet. The temperature in Seoul during winter would be very cold for my people, but I want to try. Duhan looked at his friend. Her determination made him smile. We'll get you special heating clothes, he said, and a gravity suit to help with the pressure. It won't be comfortable, but it will keep you safe. Captain Jaiwan appeared in the doorway. How's the paperwork going? She asked, pushing off the wall to float toward them. Slowly, Duhan admitted, but we're making progress. The captain nodded. I sent some messages to Earth Command. They're interested in this visit. No Centaurian has ever spent Christmas on Earth before. They think it could help relations between our peoples. Era's skin brightened with excitement. Does that mean they'll approve the visit? If you pass the medical tests, Captain Jaiwan said, and complete the gravity training. We have a chamber that can simulate Earth's gravity. You'll need to practice. Duhan watched as Era's expression turned serious. How long will the training take? At least 2 months, the captain said. And it won't be easy. Earth's gravity is 3 times stronger than what you're used to. Era straightened in her seat. I can do it. I want to see real snow and Christmas lights and everything Duhan described. Duhan felt proud of her courage. Most aliens found Earth too dangerous to visit. Its heavy gravity, thick air, and changing weather scared them away. But Era was different. Then let's start tomorrow, Sun Mai said, entering the room with a medical kit. First, we'll check your bone density and muscle strength. Then we can begin low-gravity exercises. As Sun Mi took readings of Era's vital signs, Duhan worked on more forms. The schedule was tight. They needed to finish training, get all approvals, and arrange transport before Christmas. But seeing Era's excited face made all the work worth it. Duhan, Era said softly while Sun Mi checked her heart, what if I can't handle Earth's gravity? He looked up from his tablet. Then we'll find another way. Maybe we can bring Christmas to you, but I promise you'll experience it one way or another. Era's skin glowed brighter at his words. Outside the station's windows, stars twinkled like distant snowflakes, and Earth hung below them, wrapped in its white clouds, waiting. Era was doing well in the gravity training. After 6 weeks, she could walk in twice her normal gravity for short periods. Duhan watched through the training chamber window as she took careful steps around the room. Your strength is improving, Sun Mai said, checking the medical readings. Just a few more weeks of practice, and you'll be ready for Earth. The station's alarm suddenly blared to life. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Warning: unknown ships approaching. All personnel to emergency stations. Duhan grabbed the station radio. Captain, what's happening? Pirates. Captain Jaiwan's voice crackled through the speaker. 3 ships. They're not responding to our signals. Duhan looked at Era in the gravity chamber. She was already turning off the gravity simulator, her movements quick but careful. Get to the safe room, he told her. I need to check the life support systems. I'm coming with you, Era said, floating out of the chamber. You might need help. Before Duhan could argue, a loud explosion shook the station. The lights flickered, and warning messages flashed on every screen. Hull breach in Section 4, the computer announced. Emergency shields activated. Duhan and Era rushed through the corridors toward the life support control room. They passed other crew members heading to their emergency positions. The station shook again with another hit. They're trying to disable our shields. Captain Jaiwan's voice came through the radio. Duhan, we need those systems running at full power. They reached the control room. Duhan's fingers flew over the keyboards, checking readings and rerouting power. Era helped by reading out system status reports. A new alarm sounded. Warning: intruders detected in Section 6. They're inside the station, Era said, her blue skin pale with fear. Duhan heard footsteps in the corridor outside. He quickly pushed Ara behind a large equipment cabinet. "Stay hidden," he whispered. The door burst open. Two figures in dark spacesuits entered, holding plasma weapons. Their helmets had black visors that hid their faces. "Check the systems," one said to the other. "We need to shut down their defenses." Duhan stayed very still behind his control panel. He watched as one pirate walked toward the main computer. If they shut down the life support systems, everyone on the station would be in danger. Moving slowly, Duhan reached for the emergency toolkit under his desk. Inside was a metal wrench, not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. The pirate at the computer was having trouble understanding the controls. "These readings don't make sense," he growled. Duhan knew why. He had changed all the display languages to Korean when he heard them coming. It was buying them time. Suddenly, the second pirate turned and saw movement where Ara was hiding. He raised his weapon. Duhan didn't think. He jumped up and threw the wrench as hard as he could. It hit the pirate's weapon hand, making him miss his shot. The plasma blast hit the ceiling instead. But the first pirate was faster. He spun around and fired. Duhan felt burning pain in his side. He heard Ara scream his name as he fell. Through blurry eyes, he saw Captain Ji-won and security officers rush into the room, their weapons drawn. The pirates were quickly captured, but Duhan barely noticed. The pain was getting worse. He pressed his hand against his side and felt warm blood. "Stay still." Ara's voice trembled as she knelt beside him. "Sunlight is coming. Just stay still." Duhan tried to smile. "Sorry," he whispered. "Christmas might be delayed a bit." The medical bay lights were too bright in Duhan's eyes. He lay on the treatment bed while Sunmi checked his wound. The plasma blast had burned through his uniform and left a deep injury in his side. "The wound is serious," Sunmi said, looking at her medical scanner. "You need to go into medical stasis until we can get you to a proper hospital." "No." Duhan tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body. "No stasis. We're too far from the nearest hospital." Ara stood nearby, her blue skin almost white with worry. "Please, Duhan, listen to Sunmi. The pirates damaged our long-range communications," Captain Ji-won said from the doorway. "Help will take time to reach us." Duhan shook his head. "If I go into stasis now, I might not wake up for weeks. Maybe months." He looked at Ara. "Christmas will be over by then." "Christmas." Sunmi's voice was sharp. "You're worried about Christmas. This wound could kill you." "I made a promise." Duhan's voice was quiet but firm. "Ara has trained so hard. She's ready for Earth's gravity. We have a ship. We can make it." Captain Ji-won moved closer to the bed. The emergency shuttle wasn't damaged in the attack. "But it's a 3-day journey to Earth." 3 days isn't so long," Duhan said, even as another wave of pain hit him. Sunmi ran more scans of his injury. "The plasma burned deep. I can give you medicine for the pain and seal the wound temporarily, but you need real surgery. Then we'll get it on Earth." Duhan reached out and took Ara's hand. Her skin was cool against his fever-warm fingers. "I promised you'd see Christmas, real Christmas, with snow and lights and everything." Ara's large silver eyes filled with tears. "Not if it means losing you. No Christmas is worth that." "He's as stubborn as all humans," Captain Ji-won said, but there was respect in her voice. "If we can't talk you out of this, let's at least plan it properly." For the next hour, they made preparations. Sunmi treated Duhan's wound with their strongest medicines and sealed it with special bandages. She packed extra medical supplies and showed Ara how to change the bandages. "The shuttle has artificial gravity," Captain Ji-won explained. "We'll set it to Centaurian normal so Ara can help take care of you." Duhan nodded, trying to hide how much pain he was in. The medicine helped, but the burning feeling in his side wouldn't go away. "I've contacted Earth Command," the captain continued. Told them about the pirates and that you're coming. They'll have medical teams ready. Ara hadn't left Duhan's side. I'll watch him every minute, she promised Sunme. If anything changes, if he gets worse, then you turn the ship around immediately, Sunme finished. No arguments. Duhan managed a small smile. It's just 3 days, and then you'll see Earth. Real snow. Everything I promised. Captain Jaewon looked at them both. The shuttle is ready whenever you are. But Duhan, are you sure about this? He took a careful breath, feeling the pain in his side. Yes, sometimes the best Christmas gifts need a little sacrifice. No one mentioned that this little sacrifice might cost him his life. The emergency shuttle was small, but it had everything they needed. Duhan sat in the pilot's seat, trying to ignore the pain in his side. Ara worked quickly beside him, checking all the systems just as they had practiced. Pirate ships are still out there. Captain Jaewon's voice came through the radio. They're damaged but not destroyed. Be careful. Ready? Duhan asked Ara, his hand hovering over the controls. She nodded, but her blue skin was pale with worry. The medical supplies are secured. Sunme showed me where everything is. The shuttle's engines hummed to life. Duhan's training took over as he guided the small ship away from the station. His side burned with every movement, but he kept his face calm. He didn't want Ara to see how much pain he was in. 2 pirate ships moving, Captain Jaewon warned. They're trying to block your path. Duhan looked at the radar screen. The pirates were positioning their ships to trap them. But he saw something they didn't, a small gap in their formation. Hold on tight, he told Ara. This might be rough. He turned the shuttle sharply, using the station's bulk as cover. The sudden movement made his wounds scream with pain, but he didn't let go of the controls. What are you doing? Ara asked, gripping her seat tightly. Something they won't expect. Duhan aimed the shuttle directly at the space between the pirate ships. It was a gap barely wider than their shuttle. The pirates started firing. Purple plasma bolts lit up the space around them. But they weren't ready for such a bold move. Station defense systems online, Captain Jaewon announced, giving you cover fire. The station's weapons opened up, forcing the pirate ships to divide their attention. Duhan saw his chance and took it. He pushed the shuttle's engines to full power. They shot through the gap between the pirate ships like a bullet. Warning lights flashed as they passed through the energy wake of the pirates' engines. Damage report, Duhan asked, fighting to keep the shuttle steady. Ara checked the systems. Minor damage to the outer hull. All critical systems working. A plasma bolt passed close by their window, lighting up the cockpit with purple light. Duhan rolled the shuttle to avoid the next shot, but the movement sent new waves of pain through his body. Duhan, Ara noticed him wincing. Should I take the controls? Not yet, he said through gritted teeth, almost clear. Captain Jaewon's voice crackled through the radio again. You're past their effective weapons range. They can't catch you now. Their engines are too damaged. Duhan finally allowed himself to relax slightly. He set the shuttle on a course for Earth and engaged the autopilot. We made it, Ara said softly, still watching the radar screen as the pirate ships grew more distant. First part done, Duhan agreed. He pressed a hand against his bandaged side. The wound felt hot, and his uniform was damp with fresh blood. Now we just have to get to Earth. Ara saw the blood spreading on his uniform. Let me check your bandages. Sunmai said we need to change them every few hours. As she helped him out of the pilot's seat, Duhan looked back at the station through their rear viewport. Captain Jaewon had risked a lot to help them escape. He hoped she would be okay. 3 days, he murmured. Just 3 days to Earth. But from the way his side burned, he wondered if he could last that long. 20 hours into their journey to Earth, Duhan's fever got worse. He lay in the shuttle's small medical bed while Ara changed his bandages again. The wound looked angry and red around the edges. Your temperature is too high, Era said, checking the medical scanner Sunmai had given them. Her cool hands felt good against his hot skin. The medicine isn't working as well as before. Duhan tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. Plasma wounds are tricky. They keep burning even after they're made. The shuttle's autopilot beeped, warning of an upcoming course correction. Duhan started to get up, but Era gently pushed him back down. I can handle it, she said. Sunmei made me practice all the shuttle controls, remember? Duhan watched as she floated to the cockpit. Her movements were smooth in the low gravity they kept for her comfort. She pressed the right buttons without hesitation, proving she had learned well. Course adjusted, she reported. We're still on schedule to reach Earth in 48 hours. 2 more days, Duhan whispered. His vision was starting to blur around the edges. Tell me more about your world, Era. Help me stay awake. Era returned to his side. She pressed a cold pack against his forehead while she talked. Centauri Prime has 3 suns, she began. The sky is never completely dark. The smallest sun is red, and when it sets, it makes the clouds look like fire. Duhan tried to focus on her words. The pain in his side had spread, making his whole body ache. But Era's voice helped him stay present. Our buildings are very tall but thin, she continued. They sway in the wind because of the low gravity. At night, they look like dancing trees. A warning alarm suddenly blared through the shuttle. Era quickly checked the screens. Debris field ahead, she reported, from an old satellite crash. Duhan forced himself to sit up. We need to. The movement made his head spin, and black spots danced in his vision. Stay there, Era said firmly. I know what to do. Through his fever haze, Duhan watched as she took the controls. Her fingers moved confidently over the panels, just as they had practiced so many times on the station. The shuttle responded smoothly to her commands, weaving between the chunks of metal floating in space. Good job, he managed to say when they were clear. You're a natural pilot. Era's skin glowed briefly with pride, but her face stayed worried. Now it's your turn to talk, she said, returning to his side. Tell me more about Christmas, about the snow you promised to show me. Duhan closed his eyes, picturing home. When snow falls in Seoul, everything gets quiet. The whole city seems to pause and watch. The flakes look like stars falling. His voice trailed off as another wave of pain hit him. Era quickly gave him more medicine, her hands shaking slightly. Keep talking, she pleaded. Stay with me, Duhan. The Christmas lights reflect off the snow, he continued weakly. All different colors, red and green and blue, like your skin when you're happy. His words faded as consciousness slipped away. The last thing he heard was Era calling his name, her voice full of fear. But in his fever dreams, it was snowing, and he was showing her the beauty of his world. The earth grew larger in the shuttle's windows. Duhan opened his eyes when Era shook him gently awake. His fever had broken a few hours ago, but the wound in his side still burned. We're here, Era said softly, but Earth Control says there's a problem. A storm is covering most of Korea. They want us to land in Japan instead. No, Duhan's voice was weak but determined. Seoul, I promised you Seoul. Era looked worried. But the storm, I can land in it. Duhan tried to sit up. This time, the pain nearly made him black out. Just help me to the pilot's seat. Earth Control, this is Medical Shuttle E7. Era spoke into the radio. Our pilot insists on Seoul. He's hurt badly. We need the closest medical help possible. The radio crackled. Understood, E7. Seoul emergency services are standing by. But the storm makes this very dangerous. Era helped Duhan into the pilot's seat. His uniform was soaked with sweat, and his hand shook as he gripped the controls. But his eyes were clear and focused. Activating gravity compensators, Era said, working the controls beside him. She was wearing the special suit they had brought for her, the one designed to help her handle Earth's heavy gravity. The shuttle began to shake as they entered Earth's atmosphere. Red fire glowed outside their windows as the heat shields took the worst of the entry burn. "How's your suit holding up?" Duhan asked through clenched teeth. Every movement sent spikes of pain through his side. "Working so far." But Era's voice sounded strained. Even with the suit, Earth's gravity was pulling at her harder than anything she had trained for. They broke through the upper atmosphere into the storm. Dark clouds surrounded them, and rain hammered against the shuttle's windows. Lightning flashed nearby, making Era jump. "This is your weather?" she asked, amazement mixing with fear in her voice. "Just part of it." Duhan managed a weak smile. "Wait until you see the snow." The shuttle's sensors beeped warnings about wind speed and visibility. Duhan ignored them, focusing on the landing coordinates. His training and experience guided his hands even as his strength faded. "Medical teams are ready," Earth Control reported. "Emergency beacon received. They have your location." The clouds finally broke, showing the lights of Seoul below them. Through the rain and wind, the city glowed like a field of stars. Era gasped at the sight. "Beautiful," she whispered. "Even in the storm, it's beautiful." Duhan's vision was starting to blur again. The pain in his side had spread to his chest, making it hard to breathe. But they were so close now. "Era," he said, his voice barely audible over the storm. "Take the landing controls, just like we practiced." "But, please, I can't focus anymore." Era's hand shook as she took the controls. Earth's gravity made every movement difficult, but she remembered her training. Duhan had taught her well. The shuttle descended slowly through the storm. Rain streaked across the windows, but the landing pad's lights shone bright and clear below them. "Almost there," Era said, concentrating hard. "Stay with me, Duhan. Stay with me." The last thing Duhan saw before darkness took him was the first snowflake landing on the shuttle's window. He had kept his promise. He had brought her to Earth. The emergency teams were waiting when the shuttle landed. Through the rain and snow, their lights flashed red and blue against the dark sky. Era had never seen anything like it. The medical team rushed into the shuttle as soon as the doors opened. They moved quickly but carefully in the storm, bringing a stretcher for Duhan. His face was very pale, and he hadn't moved since they entered Earth's atmosphere. "Plasma wound," Era told them, her voice shaking. The gravity suit helped, but speaking took extra effort in Earth's heavy pull. "It happened 3 days ago. We couldn't stop." One of the doctors looked at her with kind eyes. "You got him here. That's what matters." She turned to her team. "Let's move. He needs surgery now." Era tried to follow as they took Duhan to the waiting ambulance, but Earth's gravity made her stumble. Another doctor caught her arm. "Easy there," he said. "You must be the Centaurian we were told about. I'm Dr. Minho. Let's get you checked out too." But Duhan is in good hands, Minho assured her. "The hospital has the best plasma wound specialists in Asia. Right now, you need to let your body adjust to Earth." Era nodded, knowing he was right. Even with the gravity suit, she felt like she was carrying 3 of herself. The snow fell around them, softer than the rain, but just as strange to her. In the hospital, they took her to a special room designed for off-world visitors. The gravity was set lower, making it easier for her to move. Through the window, she could see the city of Seoul spread out below. "The storm is passing," Minho said, as he checked her vital signs. "Look, you can see the Christmas lights coming on." Era moved closer to the window. As the snow continued to fall, lights began to twinkle across the city. Red, green, gold, and white. They sparkled like the stars she knew from space, but warmer somehow, more welcoming. "How is he?" she asked. "Can you find out?" Minho made a call and listened for a moment. "He's in surgery. They say he's strong, fighting hard." "He fought the whole way here," Era said softly. just to keep his promise to show me Christmas. A nurse brought her some warm drinks specially prepared for Centaurian biology. As Era sipped them, she watched the snow transform the city. Duhan had been right. Each flake did look like a tiny star falling from the sky. "Doctor," she said, when Duhan wakes up, "will he be able to see the snow too?" Minho smiled. "The forecast says this snow will last through Christmas, and from what I hear about your friend, he's too stubborn to miss it." Era's skin glowed faintly with hope. Outside, the city's Christmas lights shone brighter as darkness fell. They reflected off the falling snow, creating patterns of color in the air. "Your world is so heavy," she told Minho, "but it's also very beautiful." "That's what makes us who we are," he replied. "The weight helps us grow stronger, but the beauty, that's what makes the strength worth having." Era touched the cold window glass, watching the snow fall on her first night on Earth. Somewhere in the hospital, Duhan was fighting to come back to her, to share this moment he had promised her. "Please be strong," she whispered, "just a little longer." 3 days after their landing, Duhan opened his eyes to find Era sleeping in a chair next to his hospital bed. Snow was falling outside his window, and Christmas music played softly from somewhere down the hall. "She hasn't left your side," Dr. Minho said quietly, checking Duhan's vital signs. "Even when we adjusted the gravity in this room for your recovery, she stayed. Said she needed to practice anyway." Duhan smiled weakly. His side still hurt, but the burning feeling was finally gone. The doctors had done good work repairing the plasma damage. Era stirred and opened her eyes. When she saw Duhan was awake, her blue skin lit up with joy. "You're back," she said, moving carefully to his bedside. Earth's gravity was still hard for her, but she was getting better at handling it. "Just in time for Christmas," Duhan replied. His voice was rough, but his eyes were clear. "It's tomorrow, right?" "Yes, and the snow hasn't stopped since we landed." Era helped him sit up slightly so he could see out the window. "Your city is covered in white." Seoul sparkled under its blanket of snow. Christmas lights glowed everywhere, and even from the hospital, they could see people hurrying along the streets with presents and decorations. "My family wants to meet you," Duhan said. "They're coming tomorrow. Mom's bringing traditional Christmas food, and my sister's kids want to show you how to make snowmen." Era's eyes widened. "Snowmen? You can build things from snow." "I'll teach you," Duhan promised, "once I can stand up properly again." Dr. Minho checked Duhan's bandages. "The wound is healing well. Better than we expected. Whatever kept you going during that flight, it did more than just keep you alive." Duhan looked at Ara. "I had a promise to keep." Later that evening, after the doctors had finished their checks, Ara helped Duhan to a wheelchair. Together, they went to the hospital's garden. The snow was still falling, and the Christmas lights in the trees made everything glow with soft colors. "Catch a snowflake," Duhan told her. "On your hand, like this." Era held out her blue palm. A snowflake landed there, perfect and delicate. Her skin glowed with delight as she watched it slowly melt. "Each one really is different," she said in wonder, "just like you told me." "Was it worth the trip?" Duhan asked. "Even with everything that happened?" Era looked at him, then at the snow-covered garden, the lights, and the city beyond. "On my world, we have 3 suns but no snow. We have tall buildings but no Christmas lights. We have less gravity." She smiled. "But we also have less courage." Duhan felt warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with his healing wound. "Courage. You flew us through a storm in Earth's gravity." "Because you taught me how," she said simply. "Because you showed me that heavy things can also be beautiful." They stayed in the garden until the evening grew cold, watching the snow fall and the Christmas lights shine. Tomorrow would bring Duhan's family, presents, and all the joy of the holiday. But this quiet moment, sharing the beauty of his world with his friend from the stars, was the best Christmas gift he could have asked for. Sometimes the heaviest worlds held the lightest hearts.